They offered him $12 million because he didn't want to cuss on screen. He didn't want to be smoking for religious reasons. Dude, people put way too much emphasis on cuss words.
A single scene from Friday cost its biggest star $12 million, ended a friendship, and sparked a feud that lasted for decades. It wasn't a line of dialogue or a punch that was thrown. It was a moment behind the camera that was so powerful, it guaranteed the original cast would never share the screen again. This is the story of the scene that secretly took one of the most beloved comedies of all time off the air for good. The phone call that sparked a fire.
I didn't go to the show last night.
You ain't got to lie, Craig. You ain't got to lie.
Ain't nobody lying.
There is a scene in Friday that lasts for less than a minute, but it contains a secret that many viewers missed for years. It's the moment Craig's girlfriend Joy calls him on the phone. She's angry, accusing him of cheating on her. But as she yells at him, the camera reveals something shocking. A man is lying in her bed, right behind her. For years, fans just saw the one man, but according to Anthony Johnson, who played Easel, a second man was hiding under the covers. This quick scene was more than just a joke. It was a moment of pure hypocrisy that perfectly captured the chaotic and often hilarious world of the movie. The idea for this visual punchline came directly from the director, F. Gary Gray. The actress who played Joy, Paula Jai Parker, later said that the role was liberating. She saw Joy as an independent woman, and many women identified with that strength. The scene became a small but perfect example of the movie's style, a blend of real-life drama and over-the-top comedy. But this scene, and others like it, planted a seed of doubt in the mind of the film's breakout star, Chris Tucker. The constant profanity, the casual use, and the sometimes chaotic morality of the characters were all part of what made the movie feel real and funny. However, as the film's popularity exploded, Tucker began to feel the weight of his character, Smokey. He was becoming a poster boy for a lifestyle he didn't want to represent. The laughter from scenes like Joy's phone call was starting to sound different to him. It was the beginning of a personal conflict that would eventually lead him to make a decision that no one saw coming, a decision that would cost him millions and change the future of the Friday franchise forever. This small, almost hidden scene was the first tremor before the earthquake, the scene of conscience.
Let me tell you my story. Working with a living legend was amazing.
The real scene that took Friday off the air for good never happened in front of a camera. It was a quiet, personal decision made by Chris Tucker that had massive consequences for the future of the franchise. For years, people assumed he left because of money. After all, he was only paid $10,000 for his star-making role as Smokey. When the time came for a sequel, the studio was ready to make him a massive offer. Ice Cube confirmed that they were prepared to pay Tucker between $10 and $12 million to be in next Friday. It was a life-changing amount of money. And then he said no. He turned down the fortune. The decision stunned everyone. His co-star, the late John Witherspoon, believed Tucker left because he was making $20 million for the Rush Hour movies and had simply become too big of a star for Friday. But the truth was much deeper and far more complicated than anyone could have imagined. The first reason for his departure was the character of Smokey itself. As Friday became a cultural phenomenon, Tucker grew uncomfortable with the influence Smokey had on people. He saw how the character, with his constant desire to get high, had become a hero to people who smoked, and he didn't want that responsibility. Fans would constantly come up to him on the street and offer him marijuana, wanting to get high with the character of Smokey, not the actor Chris Tucker. The role had become a burden. In an interview, he explained his thinking, saying, "I don't want to represent everybody smoking weed." The line between the character and the man had blurred too much for his comfort. The second and most powerful reason was his faith. Chris Tucker had a profound spiritual journey during the late 1990s. He was raised in a Pentecostal church but had moved away from his faith as he became famous in Hollywood. After the success of Friday, he moved back to Atlanta and became a born-again Christian. This change in his personal life created a direct conflict with his most famous role. Ice Cube later confirmed that Tucker turned down the millions for religious reasons. He explained that Tucker didn't want to cuss or smoke weed on camera anymore. The character of Smokey, who was known for doing exactly those things, was no longer someone he felt he could play in good conscience. His faith had become more important to him than any movie role or paycheck. He even began applying this to his stand-up comedy, finding it a welcome challenge to be funny without relying on easy or raunchy material. Finally, Tucker wanted to grow as an artist. He never planned on doing sequels for any movie. He saw the role of Smokey as a stepping stone, a great part that would open doors for him to do other things. He didn't want to be typecast as the funny stoner friend for the rest of his career. He wanted new challenges, which led him to star in huge action comedies like The Fifth Element and the Rush Hour series with Jackie Chan. He felt he had done a great job with Smokey and wanted to let that character live on while he moved on to the next phase of his career. This internal debate, this scene of conscience, was the true ending of the original Friday. By choosing his faith, his personal values, and his artistic future, Chris Tucker effectively retired the character of Smokey. And since Smokey was the comedic soul of the movie, his departure meant that the original formula was gone forever. The magic could not be recreated, and the franchise was left with a hole that could never be filled. But to understand why that hole was so big, you have to go back to the beginning, to a time when a group of friends set out to change the world with a camera and a story about their home. A different kind of hood story.
I'm talking to you. Now who is she?
That's just Debbie from down the street.
So, what the hell she doing in there?
She was just going to house.
Before Friday, movies about life in neighborhoods like South Central Los Angeles were almost always dark and sad. Films like Boys in the Hood and Menace to Society showed a world full of danger and tragedy. While these movies were important, they only told one side of the story. Ice Cube, who starred in Boys in the Hood, knew there was another side. He and his friend, DJ Pooh, felt that these films were missing the fun and the laughter that was also a part of their everyday lives. They believed that if people weren't laughing, they'd be crying, and they wanted to show the world the funny side of their community. So they decided to write a movie that felt real to them. This wasn't just a story they made up, it was their life put on screen. The main character, Craig, getting fired on his day off, was based on something that really happened to Ice Cube's cousin, who worked for a delivery company. The character of Smokey was inspired by DJ Pooh's own past experiences as a dealer. They wanted to make a movie that people from their neighborhood could watch over and over again because it felt like home. To make it even more real, they filmed it on the very street where the director, F. Gary Gray, grew up. His childhood home can even be seen in the background of the scene where Debo punches Red. Getting the movie made was not easy. Ice Cube and DJ Pooh were not experienced filmmakers, so they knew big Hollywood studios might not listen to them. They were inspired by other independent movies like Kevin Smith's Clerks, and were even willing to shoot the entire film in black and white just to save money. But then, a studio called New Line Cinema, which had made the popular house party movies, showed interest. A woman at the studio named Helena Echegoyen tracked them down and made them a promise. New Line would give them the money, and they wouldn't mess with the script at all. They gave the team a small budget of about $3.5 million and a very tight schedule. The entire movie had to be shot in just 20 days. This small budget and short timeline created a special feeling on set. It was a passion project, a mission to correct the story being told about their world. Ice Cube chose F. Gary Gray to direct because Gray had directed his music video for It Was a Good Day and understood the neighborhood's vibe. Gray was nervous at first. He worried that people wouldn't accept Ice Cube, known as one of the toughest rappers in America, in a comedy. But that risk was part of the mission. They were showing that their community was more than just one thing. It wasn't just tough, it was also funny. It wasn't just a place of struggle, it was a place of family. The authenticity was so important that during one scene, 2 local guys refused to move from a wall where they were sitting, even when offered money to be extras. The crew had no choice but to film around them, and they ended up in the final movie. This shared goal of telling a new, more human story was the glue that held the project together. But that bond was about to be tested by one person's incredible talent. The spark that lit the fuse.
She'll be wanting to marry a nigga.
Poor mama.
Yeah.
The heart of Friday was the friendship between Craig and Smokey. Ice Cube played Craig, the serious guy who was tired of all the chaos. But finding the right actor for Smokey, the wild and funny best friend, was a challenge that almost changed the entire movie. Originally, DJ Pooh, the co-writer, was supposed to play Smokey. But the studio wanted someone with more acting experience, a bigger name who could bring in an audience. They considered famous comedians like Chris Rock and Tommy Davidson for the part. Then came Chris Tucker. He was a young comedian making a name for himself on the show Def Comedy Jam. The director, F. Gary Gray, saw something special in him and fought for him to get the role. But Tucker's first audition was a disaster. He had just finished some stand-up shows, was very tired, and had not even read the script properly. He was horrible. The casting director, Kim Harden, knew he could do better and convinced the team to give him a second chance. It was a decision that would change Hollywood history. When Chris Tucker came back, he didn't just play Smokey, he became Smokey. He started improvising, making up his own lines on the spot. He was so funny that he created a problem on set. The camera operators and other crew members would laugh so hard that they would shake the cameras and ruin the shots. They had to be sent away from the set just so they could finish filming. Tucker wasn't actually high while filming. He later said, "You can't make a movie that way." His performance was pure, raw talent. The role of Smokey was the spark that lit the fuse of Chris Tucker's career. He was only paid $10,000 for the movie, a tiny amount for a role that would become legendary. But for Tucker, it was about the opportunity. Friday turned him from a rising comedian into a major movie star overnight. The chemistry between him and Ice Cube was perfect. Craig's frustration and Smokey's laid-back, chaotic energy created a comedic magic that could not be planned or written. Tucker wasn't just saying lines from a script. He was helping to write the comedy of the movie as it was being filmed. He was a creative force, the engine that made the movie run, and it was this irreplaceable energy that made his eventual departure so devastating. A neighborhood of legends.
What's up, Craig? What's up, Smokey?
Nothing.
What y'all smoking on?
Nothing. What you want?
The magic of Friday wasn't just about Craig and Smokey. It was about the entire neighborhood, a collection of unforgettable characters who felt like real people. At the center of the chaos was Debo, the neighborhood bully played by the late Tommy Tiny Lister Jr. Lister was a former professional wrestler who stood 6'5" and weighed around 275 pounds. He was born blind in his right eye, which gave him a unique and intimidating look he used to his advantage in films. To create the character, Lister based his performance on a real-life Crip leader named Eugene Big U Henley. The result was one of the most terrifying and hilarious movie villains of all time. But in real life, Lister was the opposite of his character. His manager called him a gentle giant with a huge smile. After his death, Ice Cube called him America's favorite bully and a good dude at heart. Holding down the Jones household was Craig's father, played by the legendary John Witherspoon. Mr. Jones was the source of some of the movie's most quoted lines, many of which were completely improvised. During his scenes, Witherspoon would go on unstoppable comedic rants, often about his job as a dog catcher. One of the most famous scenes involves him lecturing Craig about eating all the food in the house. During the filming of that scene, he had to eat grapes for 15 straight takes until he had finished the entire bag. His performance was so iconic that even during his stand-up shows, fans would shout lines from the movie. He would stop his act, deliver all of his famous lines from Friday to get it out of the way, and then go back to his regular routine. The neighborhood was filled with other memorable faces. There was the hypocritical Pastor Clever, played by a young Bernie Mac, who was having affairs and using drugs. There was the sultry Mrs. Parker, played by Kathleen Bradley, who was famous at the time as one of the models on the game show The Price is Right. One of the movie's best-running gags is that Mrs. Parker is always seen watering her lawn, but if you look closely, she doesn't have any grass. She's just watering dirt. And of course, there was Felicia, played by Angela Means. Her character was so annoying that she inspired one of the most famous phrases in pop culture history, "Bye, Felicia." The iconic shot of her sitting on the porch between Craig and Smokey was actually improvised by Means. She felt her character would invade their personal space, so she sat down between them without telling Ice Cube or Chris Tucker. Their annoyed reactions in the movie are completely real. These small, authentic moments, born from a cast that understood the world they were portraying, are what made Friday more than just a movie. It was a living, breathing neighborhood. Fractures in the foundation.
We've heard rumors about a last Friday. Are you going to take a stab at that? Can you tell us?
I'm not really sure.
Chris Tucker's decision sent ripples through the entire Friday world. The franchise tried to continue without him, but the foundation was cracked. 2 sequels were made, Next Friday in 2000 and Friday After Next in 2002. They were both successful at the box office, proving that audiences still loved the world Ice Cube had created. However, critics and many fans felt that something essential was missing. The sequels were criticized for lacking the heart and charm of the original. Comedian Mike Epps was brought in to play Craig's cousin, Day Day, and while he was funny, he couldn't replace the unique chemistry that Ice Cube and Chris Tucker had. The magic was gone. As the years went on, another issue surfaced that showed the strain success had put on the original cast. Faizon Love, who played the memorable dealer Big Worm, revealed in an interview that he was only paid $2,500 for his role in the first movie. This news caused an uproar online, with some fans accusing Ice Cube of underpaying his actors and robbing his own people. Ice Cube quickly responded to the claims. He explained that Friday was a very low-budget movie, made for just $2.3 million. He said that all the actors were paid scale, which is the standard minimum rate, for the 1 or 2 days they worked on set. He pointed out that they could have said no to the offer, but they didn't. Faizon Love himself later came to Ice Cube's defense, posting a picture of them together and calling the low pay the price of admission to a game. He said he had zero regrets and thanked Cube for the opportunity. While the issue was resolved, it showed that the happy family from the first film had faced real-world pressures. But the biggest blows to the franchise were yet to come, and they were heartbreaking. Over the years, the hope of a full reunion for one last movie faded as the Friday family began to lose some of its most beloved members. In 2019, John Witherspoon, who played Craig's hilarious and unforgettable father, Mr. Jones, passed away from a heart attack at age 77. He was the heart of the Jones family and a fan favorite in all 3 films. After his death, Ice Cube wrote that life won't be as funny without him. Regina King, who played his daughter, called him her comedic inspiration. Just a year later, in 2020, another tragedy struck. Tommy "Tiny" Lister Jr., the actor who played the iconic neighborhood bully Debo, died at age 62. The loss of both Pops and Debo meant that 2 of the most important pillars of the Friday world were gone forever. For years, Ice Cube has tried to make a final movie called Last Friday, but the project has been stuck in development, partly due to disagreements with the studio Warner Brothers, which owns the rights to the franchise. Cube even wrote scripts that the studio rejected, including one where Smokey would be running a fake rehab center. Even if they could solve the studio issues, and even if Chris Tucker agreed to return, a true reunion is now impossible. The story of Friday became one of compounding loss. It started with the creative loss of its comedic star, was complicated by real-world disputes, and was sealed by the tragic final loss of its beloved actors. The perfect moment in time that was the original Friday had been dismantled, piece by piece. The scene that truly ended the original Friday was a quiet choice made by one man, a decision of faith and conscience that had louder and longer-lasting effects than any fight scene or punchline. While other movies were made, the first Friday stands alone, a perfect time capsule of a specific time and place. It was a rare moment when a clear mission, authentic stories, and a perfectly matched cast came together to create something special. The story of why that magic could never be repeated is a reminder that some things can only happen once, and it is that memory that keeps the original film a classic forever.